The music might be.
Yeah, a little
uh,
hint of what's to come.
yes. For a lot of people, it is a very dark time of year, even though it should be a joyous time of year. Dr. Jonathan Tripp is in studio with us this morning. Better Health with Tripp Family Medicine. Bill Cowley answering the telephone calls too as well. You may have a comment or question, especially about this time of year, because people, first of all, I think that I remember being a kid, and I remember how my parents would, they were stressed if they were hosting any big family celebrations, and there was always that maybe post holiday depression that set in too, because you didn't always you like to think it's like a Hallmark movie, that it's all going to wrap up nicely and the celebration will be great, and then any old animosities, grudges will be buried, and yet doesn't always turn out that way, does it?
Yeah, not always. In fact, we had a great Thanksgiving holiday with a lot of extended family and still had kind of that post-mortem depression feeling. And it was mainly, I think, just a crash and burn after all the energy spent during that time. There wasn't, a lot of harsh feelings or anything like that. It was just like the house emptied out of the many people and dogs that showed up. And what's really fun is our topic today is happy holiday stress. December, the stress compactor.
Yeah.
And that I was putting this presentation together and I thought, for me, I'm one who likes the season and I try to keep optimistic and enjoy everything that's there, but I find myself and others around me trying to put everything I can into this plus we just got done with a football banquet, and there's, company parties, and there's church parties, and there's, other things that people are trying to do, including a lot of service things that are going on. So, like, my office gets involved in service. We do caroling as an office annually. We try to pick some patients that we think otherwise won't have much excitement during the holidays. But that takes effort, that takes time, and it takes, people committing to show up and to do things. And, we did this last year and had hurricane force winds and hail hitting at the halfway mark of our caroling and kind of brought it to a short end. So, things don't always work out so great, but trying to pack things in, that's why I call it the stress compactor. So today we're going to talk about what kinds of things do cause us stress during the holidays, and then what can we do about it? And what's really interesting is if I can give a general theme, it is try to reduce your expectations for yourself and for others, and realize that our commercial media's main job is to help you find out what you don't have and what they think you need to buy, and increase your expectations of what needs to happen. Now, whether it's stuff, and I love just referring to what we buy as stuff. In fact, a quick little statistic. Last year, the average person, each individual, spent on average $809 for Christmas. Take that to a family of, five or something like that, and all of a sudden you have big numbers.
Thousands of dollars.
And the reality is after the quote Great Recession, which is only a few years ago now, we plummeted to a whopping $698 or 48, I forget which. And so it's still a lot of money, even so we feel a lot of obligation to spend a lot of money. And so, the reality is if you think back to times when you're a kid, probably it wasn't the big money that was spent. It was probably something simple or something you did. And so that's probably my biggest push on this, show that we talk about this morning is that try to lower your expectations for yourself, for others, for the things you need or that you think you need, and you might find out that it's a whole different scenario than your average experience with the holiday season.
I would see. I read today in the newspaper out of, I think, Idaho Falls, about how Idahoans are the fifth most generous when it comes to volunteering time, and more than a third of Idahoans in the past year have volunteered in some project or in some organization. Maybe that's what people need to focus more on this time of year, because that might be more fulfilling.
I think that that's probably absolutely true. That we have very service-oriented people, a lot of good people. That's part of the reason why we moved to where we are in Twin Falls is we'd come and visited with my sister and her family, summertime, Christmas time, And so people will often say, well, let's see, you've lived in Philadelphia and you've lived in San Antonio and you've lived in Detroit and you lived in Phoenix. Now, why did you come to Twin Falls? And my response is because I know better. It is a good place and there are good people. And that is one of the hints of as we go through what to do about it is finding a way to step out of what you're doing and actually serve somebody else. And it can be simple. It can be, giving a friendly hello, holding the door. It could be serving down at our food kitchen. We have the Catholic Church right down on the main park downtown. That's a great experience. I've done that a couple times with my family. So, and that can be any evening. It doesn't have to be Christmas Eve or Thanksgiving. Any evening they can use you, and I think they
It's
have you
often in
show
the
up about.
church bulletin that they have a need for people.
Yeah, so I think it's 4 or 4:30 is my memory. You go, they assign you a little job, and you just serve, and it's a lot of fun, and you get to see who you're serving, and that's a great experience. So there's one idea, but let me tell you some of the things that.
Hold that thought for a
Okay.
moment. We've got a short break, and we got more with Dr. Jonathan Tripp from Tripp Family Medicine in just a couple of moments. We're going to delve more into this, how you beat maybe perhaps holiday stress and holiday blues in just a moment with Dr. Jonathan Tripp. We do want to point out if you'd like to if comment or question for the doctor this morning, 7360300. It's 8:43, and right now it's 30. Bill Colley answering the telephones. And we do want to point out, I know that for about a month, your office was involved very heavily because we're now seeing some of the coldest weather of the season and
Yeah,
will through the next week at least. You had a very successful effort with the coat drive.
we did. So I want to thank everybody that helped out with that. It kind of was amazing to me that, we announced it, and within a couple of days, we had probably 50 coats right to begin with, and then continued to do that through middle, maybe even the 20th of November is when we kind of ended our effort. But that was very successful and appreciate that. So that's a minor service because, we made an announcement. We made an effort to have a place to deposit them, and then we delivered them. And that is, just that it took a little time, but it is a good thing to do. And I'm not saying trying to toot our horn too much as much as I'm saying um, it doesn't have to be a public service. It can be helping somebody sweep a walk or something like that, and you'll be amazed at that little, what I'll call timeout for somebody else, will help de-stress what you're doing with the rest of your month. So, let me talk to you a little bit about the. This is just a list of what Consumer Reports did a survey among people and just said, what are your top stressors? And what's really interesting is 2/3 of the people said crowds and long lines. So, I know a way around that. I just don't go. That's probably not great for our commercial entities to hear. Um, and the next two were tied for gaining weight and getting into debt. And I think those are really important ones to try to avoid. Shopping for gifts was number 4, and almost tied with that one was traveling. Whether you're traveling long distance, short distance. In fact, I did a little reading. There's a statistic that said the average distance somebody travels during Christmas is 250 miles, which is farther than Thanksgiving. But the rest of the year, long distance travel is about equal to what people do at Christmas on average. So, travel is a big deal. Seeing certain relatives, I think everybody had figured that one out. There's always fun at family gatherings that you may not really want to have around, and so you know as they say, everybody's got one, and you might be that one. So, but that can be a tough one. Seasonal music. It's interesting how some people see that as a stress. We have 96.5, a sister station that plays Christmas or holiday music for the whole month, and some of us love that, and some of us need a break, and some of us don't want it at all. So that's an interesting one. Disappointing gifts. I thought at least one of these came into really showing that there's a fairly healthy selfish part of us in the crowd that they're disappointed with their gifts, and that's a stress about the holidays. And then having to attend holiday parties and events, you know, for some people it's great, and others, it's a mean obligation, or so that's the way they feel about that.
You almost feel, I think, in some cases, and I hate to say this, I've worked places where you felt compelled to make an appearance.
Yes.
That if you didn't, somehow that it would harm you in the political culture of the office.
Absolutely. So, any of my employees, if you're listening, if you don't show up, you're out. That's the way it goes. No, no pressure there whatsoever. No, we hopefully that's not the feeling at my office. I'll try to go back after the show and make sure that people know if they really don't want to come, we didn't want them anyway.
Yes.
So something like that. Um, Let me give you some things. Kind of, this is I'll call it the downside. This is from an article this time last year from Forbes magazine. It says here's some common causes of the holiday stress. Lots of people have to work hard. Looming year-end deadlines potentially increase business, especially if you're in sales or holiday season. Your health clinics are one of them. Because everybody's got their deductible, or a lot of them that change over January 1st, and they want that mole removed, or they want that skin tag, or they want to make sure that they get their labs done, or whatever it is that they want done. Or my gallbladder's been bothering me for 6 months, but I'm going to get it done before the end of December because I have a new deductible, and so that's what happens in health clinics. But if you're in a retail store or a restaurant in particular, this is busy, busy. This is the time of year. So um, working, extra stress at work on top of all the other things I talked about compacting into December. Um, the holiday travel we talked about, stretching your budget or spending too much. That's one. Bringing people together that have some accompanying drama. That's another. Um, Inclement weather makes it tougher to get around. May limit your outside activities because we're going to get back to things you can do to help out, and physical activity is a big one. It really helps. Um, Holiday can remind you of painful memories, such as breakup, divorces, deaths, especially when you see scenes where people are apparently experiencing the opposite. The seemingly happy couple, or the TV show where everybody lives happily ever after, things like that. Um, Food and beverage. This is really the one that I think you can do a lot about. I love desserts, so I'm guilty as anybody on this. And we have people bring stuff into the office as a Christmas gift, and there's always something just you can't hardly pass up. So my suggestion, or what happens is, we tend to eat more and we tend to drink more, especially if we're do alcohol consumption. And as we gain weight, we have remorse, we regret, and guess what we do? We tend to eat more and drink more as a result of it. So if you can try to stick to most of what you normally do, especially if they're healthy habits, whether as far as eating and some exercising, that will help you go a long ways to keeping out of the depression that can hit with holidays.
I love eggnog, but I guess I should limit myself probably to just the one glass and
Well,
then share it with everybody
it's
else.
really funny. Let me give an analogy. I see people that are diabetics or newly diagnosed diabetics all the time. And for years, the American Diabetes Association and all kinds of medical recommendations were never, 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 never touch sweets. Well, what they found is if we back off and we say, have some, do it once in a while, that people that are diabetic control their sugars better, and they didn't have big spikes. They didn't go through binges, and they just lived longer, lived healthier if you did a little bit. It sounds like all things in moderation, doesn't it? And so if you keep that attitude, you don't feel like you've been held back, so you don't just go in bonkers when somebody brings in that awesome turtle chocolate cake with whatever else on it. So try to maintain a little normalcy, but indulge some. That's, I guess, the way I'd say is do it sometimes. My dad used to say sometimes, so that's a good one. Um, what else? If everybody else is, oh, this is one for relationships on the little darker side. It says, "I saw mommy, daddy, and everyone else kissing Santa Claus." So when people are stressed, lonely, depressed, or drunk, they do unusual and unpredictable things, which can make things even more stressful if that other person is a family member, significant other, your boss, your employee, or you. That really will change the holiday season. So again, moderation. Try to expand your circle of friends. Keep it on the lighter side because a lot of people don't have a great social circle or family nearby. Boy, there's an opportunity for a little service. It doesn't have to be on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. Do something for somebody doesn't have anybody else around. That would be a great for them and for you. So I guess service is now becoming my theme for this one. Um, Now, here's some things you can do. And I love the way they say this one. This is coming from Forbes again. Running around the Christmas tree. Keep regular exercise routine, maintain your regular hobbies and regular eating habits, unless they're unhealthy. So, if you can do something, whether it's going out and walking, I had a patient yesterday said, "Hey, I got a treadmill. I don't mind using it." I personally don't like being on a treadmill. I'd rather be outside. So even if it's bad weather, if I dress up and have to hike through even snow, I'd rather do that, but not everybody can. Um, Away in a manger, this is also my way of saying a timeout. It's getting enough sleep, that you recharge and can handle stress, but also taking time out to go to separate yourself from whatever else is going on. My wife is working real hard on decorations for, here you go, here's a plug for the Canyon Ridge High School Synergy Concert, which is their show choir, and they do their Christmas concert on Friday and Saturday. I think it's at 7 p.m. both nights.
This coming weekend.
This coming Friday and Saturday. So she's busy making decorations for their stage and working lots of hours during Thanksgiving and now. And I can tell you that's pushing her to feel a little bit stressed about other things that aren't getting done. Not to be talk too much, but things around the house are struggling because we had a lot of people at Thanksgiving and she hasn't had time to recoup from that yet. So what did I do this morning? Picking up after the dog that chewed up a whole bunch of colored pencils, things like that. So what else can we do? Don't be afraid to tell others if you're feeling down. You might be surprised they're struggling, and you can kind of do a little sharing there. Um, Watch out for the shopping. In fact, we had a joke about this. One of my PAs and I were talking about, did you go out shopping on Black Friday or on the Saturday? And he says, no, I didn't go out, but I shopped online. And I said, uh-oh, we're going to have to sign you up for AA, which used to be Alcoholics Anonymous. Now it's Amazon Anonymous.
Yes.
So these are some of the things. Oh, let's see. Keep in mind the world is a big place, and you're not necessarily trapped in your circle of current social friends and circumstances. Um, Feeding the world. I brought up St. Edward's, their food or soup kitchen, if you will. That's a great choice. Helping others. Keep in perspective that the holidays are, if they're tough for you, that this season is temporary and it will pass. Great book by Og Mandino.
And that's the thing too. You throw in the fact that there's not a lot of sunlight this time of year. You are stressed. Um, that I remember going shopping in malls, and you're elbowing your way around trying to get through all of this, and you do get
Yes.
you start the whole spirit of it starts to drain from you very very fast sometimes in those situations, and then people are trying to grab your parking space when you
Yeah.
you, you
Oh my
don't.
goodness. I have fond memories of the metropolitan Philadelphia area of competitions in huge malls to get to parking spaces, and it was less than friendly. Less than Christmas spirit. So one of those things. It's really funny. You say try to stay optimistic. Well, if you find yourself getting negative, try to find something to be grateful for, and it'll help you stay optimistic because this is health research that optimism will has health benefits, and so pessimism tends to be the opposite. So be open to new experiences, possibilities. Sometimes the best things are really the unexpected little stuff that you didn't plan.
And they do. You got to be willing to notice them, though. I mean, that's
Yep.
and if you're not stressed, you'll be able to do it.
Yeah. Well, I guarantee everybody's going to be stressed some. The problem is are you able to take a minute, take a deep breath, a short time out, and say, you know what, this is actually kind of cool in spite of what's still hanging over me, what's still stressing me. So this is a tough subject for some people, and others don't even hardly get what I'm talking about because they're so darned optimistic. But the truth is I think if you will really say, what's the purpose of this season? Is it really all about how much I can buy and how much I can, give financially? If so, that's a long month. If it really is more about, uh, spending a little time with others, and sometimes more than a day is too much time, but other times you find that this is a time to get together with family that you're not doing otherwise in the rest of the year.
Before we wrap up, can you repeat the contact information for the office? Because we still have a lot of new people coming to town and they're looking for someone for a family doctor and for that type of care.
You bet.
Where would you send them?
Only to one place.
Yes.
No, no.
Tripp Family Medicine.
There are lots of good doctors. We'd like to say we're one of the better options. So, Tripp Family Medicine is located on Fillmore Street, across from the post office, up on the north side of town. It is if you want the address, 1411 Fillmore Street, and we are on the telephone at 933-4400. So 933-4400. On the website, it's trippfamilymedicine.com, which you can get lots of information there about us, as well as download new patient information, paperwork that you can do rather than sit in the lobby and do. And then on Facebook, it's Tripp Family Medicine. So we'd be happy to see you. We love seeing kids. We've got lots of colds and things like that going around right now. And our motto is, if you're hurt or sick, we get you in quick.
I want to
So
thank Dr. Tripp for dropping by today, and hopefully we'll chat again before Christmas.
I'm sure we will.
All right. We've got prosecuting attorney Grant Loebs coming up in just a few minutes, following the news at 9 o'clock from Fox. Bill Colley with you as well. This is Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com.